Welcome back to the Top 1% Book Club. You know how this works. We take those awesome self-help books, the ones everyone's talking about,
Yeah.
and we really dig in to find the stuff that can actually make a difference in your life.
Actionable insights, right? That's the goal.
Exactly. And today, we're all about love.
Ooh, getting romantic.
Well, sort of. We're tackling Gary Chapman's The Five Love Languages. I bet a lot of you have heard of it.
It's a classic.
But we're going deeper than just, like, the basic overview.
Yeah, we're assuming you've got the gist that we all have these different ways of feeling loved, like different languages, you know?
Exactly. So like imagine trying to tell someone I love you in, I don't know, Swahili if they only speak French.
Total miscommunication could even lead to some hurt feelings, even though you meant well.
And that's what Chapman's getting at with this love tank idea.
Right. It's like, okay, imagine your need for love is like this tank in your car. You got to keep it filled up to run smoothly, right?
Makes sense. So speaking the right love language is basically filling up that tank.
And when it's empty, problems. You might feel neglected, resentful, even if your partner's trying their best.
Okay, so let's break down these love languages.
Yeah.
First up, words of affirmation. Seems pretty straightforward.
Sure, we all love compliments, right? But for some people, it goes way deeper than that.
So like what makes this a distinct love language?
It was like, okay, imagine words of love are like essential nutrients. For these folks, hearing I love you, getting compliments, that's what nourishes them.
So it's not just about like being cheesy or anything.
No, it's got to be genuine. Those little affirmations, those can be super powerful, you know, like leaving a note, sending a quick text to say you're proud of them.
Little things that can really make their day.
Absolutely. It's showing them that you see them, you appreciate them.
Okay, that's words of affirmation. What about quality time? I feel like in today's world, this one is.
Huge.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
So what does it really mean in the context of love languages?
It's about being present, like truly present, not just physically in the same room, but mentally engaged. Putting down your phone, you know, silencing those notifications and just focusing on the other person.
So it's about creating that space where you can connect
Yeah,
without distractions.
exactly. But it's not just about sitting face to face, right? It's about shared experiences, doing things together.
Creating memories.
Yes. Cooking dinner, going on a hike, even just like cuddling on the couch and having a deep conversation, whatever you both enjoy.
Love that. Okay, next up, receiving gifts. Now, I'll admit, I used to think this one was a bit superficial.
Yeah, I get that.
But Chapman really changed my perspective. So explain it to me, why are gifts so important for some people?
It's not about the price tag, all right. It's about the thought behind it. Like, it's a physical symbol that says, hey, I was thinking about you.
Like a little piece of their love you can hold on to.
Exactly. And it can be anything, a small gift, a handmade card, even their favorite snack.
I remember that story Chapman tells about the husband who brought his wife coconut juice.
Yeah, and it wasn't some fancy imported stuff. It was just coconut juice.
But it meant the world to her.
Right. It reminded her of her childhood. It showed her he understood her.
So it's all about paying attention to those little things, the stuff that lights them up.
Exactly.
Okay, on to acts of service. Now this one I get. It's about,
Doing stuff, right.
yeah, showing your love through actions. So why does this resonate with some people so strongly?
For them, actions speak way louder than words. It's like, okay, imagine you come home from a long day and your partner's already done the dishes, folded the laundry.
They're like a mind reader.
Right. And it makes you feel so loved and appreciated. It's about going above and beyond without being asked.
So noticing those little things that would make their life easier.
Exactly. Walking the dog, fixing that broken cabinet door, even just like making coffee in the morning.
It's about being a true partner, a teammate.
I like that, teammate. That's a good way to put it.
Okay, but Chapman also talks about how even with the best intentions, you can mess this up.
Yeah.
He tells this story about a husband who cleaned the entire house,
Oh, yeah, to impress his wife.
but it totally backfired. Why?
Well, her love language was quality time and all that cleaning. It meant he wasn't spending time with her.
So even if your intentions are good, if you're not speaking the right love language.
It's a miss. And that's why figuring out your partner's love language is so important. We'll dive into how to do that in part 2 of our deep dive.
All right, so we've talked about 4 love languages so far. Words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, and acts of service.
Which leaves us with...
Physical touch. Now, I know this one can get a little tricky,
Yeah, it's often associated with, you know, the more intimate side of relationships.
but it's so much more than that, right?
Absolutely. Physical touch can be incredibly powerful, even in a totally non-romantic way. It's about those little gestures, the ones that show warmth and affection.
Like hugs, holding hands.
A simple touch on the arm, even just sitting close together on the couch, those can speak volumes.
So for someone whose primary love language is physical touch,
Those gestures are like a warm blanket for the soul.
it makes them feel secure, loved.
Connected, yeah, like you're really there with them.
Chapman tells this story about a woman who chose to stay with her husband, even though it meant leaving her dream job.
All because he had to move for work, right?
Yeah. She couldn't bear the thought of being physically separated from him.
Wow, that's powerful. Really shows you how deeply this love language can impact someone.
It's not about being clingy. It's about that deep need for physical closeness. Okay, so we've got the 5 love languages down, but how do we actually figure out what our partner's is?
Well, it's not always obvious, but Chapman gives us some clues. First one, pay attention to their complaints.
So it's not just about what they're saying, but what's underneath those complaints.
Exactly. Let's say they're always complaining about you being on your phone.
Why are you always on that thing?
Right. That could mean their love language is quality time. They're feeling ignored, like they're not the priority.
Makes sense. It's not about the phone itself. It's about feeling unimportant.
Exactly. Another clue is what they request. Like, are they always asking for hugs?
Maybe they're big on physical touch.
Right. Or maybe they're constantly showering you with compliments.
Could be their way of expressing love through words of affirmation.
Exactly. It's like they're hinting at what they need even if they don't realize it. And the third clue, look at how they express love to you.
So their way of showing affection might reflect their own love language.
Often, yeah. If they're always giving you thoughtful gifts, chances are that's what makes them feel loved too.
Fascinating. It's like a code we can crack to understand each other better. But even when we know their love language, actually speaking it, that's a whole other challenge.
Totally. It's like learning a new language takes effort and practice.
And sometimes you got to step out of your comfort zone.
Big time. Like if my partner's all about acts of service, but I'm, not exactly handy.
Not Mr. Fix-It.
Yeah. I still gotta find ways to help out, even if it's not my natural inclination. Maybe it's running errands, organizing their desk, whatever makes their life easier.
So it's about being willing to stretch ourselves a little.
And remember, it's not about manipulation. It's about genuine care.
Showing your love in a way that truly resonates with them. Okay, let's get practical. What are some concrete ways to speak each love language, starting with words of affirmation? How do we make our words really count?
Specificity, like instead of just saying, you look nice, try that shirt really brings out your eyes, you look amazing.
Oh, I see. It's about going beyond the generic,
Yeah.
making them feel truly seen.
Yes. And don't underestimate the power of little frequent affirmations, like leave a note, send a quick text.
Little love bombs throughout the day.
Exactly.
What about for those of us who aren't naturally eloquent? Any tips?
Focus on what they already value about themselves. Maybe they're proud of their cooking skills or their sense of humor. Acknowledge those things. Make them feel good about themselves.
Good advice. Okay, words of affirmation check. What about quality time? How do we make those moments together really meaningful?
Presence. That's the key. Put away the phone, turn off the TV, make eye contact, listen. Really listen.
Create that bubble where it's just the two of you.
Right. But also remember those shared experiences, date nights, weekend trips, even just cooking dinner together.
Creating those memories.
Exactly. It's about making time for each other, prioritizing that connection.
Got it. Quality time check. Now let's tackle gifts. I think a lot of people get this one wrong. It's not about spending a ton of money.
No way. It's about thoughtfulness. Like, it shows you were paying attention. You put effort into it.
So it's those little things that say, hey, I know you.
Exactly. Like their favorite candy bar, a book they mentioned wanting to read, even just a single flower.
It's the thought that counts.
Oh.
Okay, gifts check. Now, what about acts of service? How can we step up our game, especially if it's not our natural strength?
Be proactive. Notice what needs to be done and do it without being asked.
Like a mind-reading ninja.
Right. Maybe it's doing the dishes, walking the dog, or even just organizing their desk. Those little things can make a big difference.
It's about showing them, through actions, that you care.
Yeah.
Okay, acts of service check. Last but not least, physical touch. Any advice for navigating this one, especially in non-romantic relationships?
Boundaries. Be respectful. Start small. A hug, hello, a pat on the back.
Just little touches that show you care.
Exactly. And pay attention to their cues. If they seem uncomfortable, back off.
It's all about reading the signals. Okay, physical touch check. So we've covered all 5 love languages. But here's the thought. What if our partner's love language is different from our own? How do we handle that?
That's common. And it can be tricky. The key is to approach it with an open mind. Their love language isn't a reflection on you, it's just how they're wired.
It's like speaking different languages. We just got to find a way to communicate.
Exactly. Talk to each other about it. Tell them what makes you feel loved and really listen to what they need.
It's a two-way street.
Definitely. And be willing to step outside your comfort zone. Try speaking their love language, even if it feels weird at first.
It's about meeting each other halfway. So any other tips for navigating those differences?
One thing that can help is to actually write down like a menu of actions for each love language.
Love language menu.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you both can choose from the menu. It makes it clear what each of you needs.
I like that. It takes the guesswork out of it.
Ah.
Okay, so now we know how to speak the love languages. But what about timing? Like, even if we're doing the right thing, sometimes it just doesn't land right.
You're right. Timing is huge. Like, if they're stressed out about work, they might not be receptive to, say, a gift.
They might just need a hug and some space.
Exactly. So be sensitive to their mood and don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, what would make you feel loved right now?
Direct communication, always a good thing.
Ah.
Okay, one last thought before we wrap up this part. What about self-love? How does that tie into all of this?
Well, it's fundamental. When you understand your own love language, you can communicate your needs better.
And take care of yourself, too.
Right. Fill up your own tank, so to speak. Then you can show up in your relationships as your best self.
Right. Welcome back to the Top 1% Book Club.
Yeah.
We've been diving deep into Gary Chapman's The 5 Love Languages.
Figuring out how to speak and understand those different ways of giving and receiving love, it's pretty powerful stuff.
It really is. But we all know knowledge is only useful if you actually put it into practice.
Right. Got to take action.
So let's talk about how we can use these love languages to really strengthen our relationships. And I don't just mean romantic relationships,
Oh, yeah. This applies to everyone in your life. Friends, family, coworkers, even your...
You barista?
Sure, your barista. Why not? Everyone appreciates feeling understood and appreciated.
Okay, so let's start with a situation I think a lot of us can relate to, dealing with a difficult coworker. That person who's like always negative, never happy with anything.
We've all worked with that person, so how could love languages help with that?
Well, let's say this coworker's love language is words of affirmation. Maybe they're craving some recognition,
Like they feel invisible, their work's not being noticed.
Exactly. So instead of getting caught up in their negativity, you could try offering some genuine compliments.
Like point out something specific they did well or acknowledge their effort on a project.
Even if it feels a little weird at first.
It could make a difference. You might not change their whole personality, but
you might create a more positive environment for everyone.
definitely. It's worth a shot.
Okay, so that's the workplace. What about family relationships? Lots of people struggle with those, right? Like maybe you have a sibling who's always been distant.
Yeah, you just can't seem to connect with them.
So how could love languages come into play there?
Well, what if their love language is quality time? Maybe they're not saying it, but they're longing for those shared experiences,
Like they want to feel closer to you, but they don't know how to make that happen.
Exactly. So instead of getting discouraged, you could invite them to do something together, something you both enjoy.
Go for a hike, see a movie.
Have coffee even. Just make the effort to spend time with them.
And who knows, it could be the start of a whole new chapter in your relationship.
Absolutely. It's all about speaking their language, showing them you care in a way that they understand.
It's amazing how these love languages can really make a difference in all areas of our lives.
It's like once you have this knowledge, you start seeing it everywhere.
And reminds us that everyone is different, Everyone has their own unique way of feeling loved and appreciated.
And taking the time to figure that out, to understand each other.
It's so worth it.
It is. It makes all the difference.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have love languages, love tanks, self-love.
And most importantly, how to put it all into action.
Yeah, that's the key.
So keep those love tanks full, everyone, and watch your relationships flourish.
And remember, it's an ongoing process.
Always learning, always growing. Well, this has been another deep dive from the Top 1% Book Club. We'll see you next time.